Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the SOTA Pop podcast. As always, I'm Grayson Wagner. SOTA Pop stands for School of the Arts, and pop just sounds nice next to it. I'm here with a very special guest, a talented filmmaker, actor, everything, the most talented guy ever, who's going to be directing a film here at UNA in October, Granville Davis.
Nah, I'm sitting next to the real talent right here.
Yeah. I mean, you heard that studio audience. They were going crazy. They really were excited about that. So I don't know. I mean, I think the hype is there.
Yeah.
People are very excited about this. Let's start with a new segment that we talked about last week, but I think we actually have a cute little name for it now, which is pop art. And we're going to be talking about just like some things that have been inspiring you artistically recently, you know, like whether it be like a film or just like, I don't know, a painting, any kind of art that may be inspiring you, especially as you're going into making your next film.
Yeah, I mean, so many things inspire me like all the time, especially like music. Music is one of the things that I use a lot, especially while I'm writing or working on Pinterest boards for like different characters, for all different types of stuff. Music has been super huge in this. Specifically, I've been listening to a lot of shout out Chappell Roan, shout out Dolly Parton, shout out Billy Joel, like a lot of just kind of different music pieces, and then also just like film wise too. Like I recently rewatched Lady Bird while working on this project too, so that was kind of a huge inspiration. Of course, The Holdovers, which I've talked to the crew and the cast about a lot. If you haven't seen The Holdovers, go watch The Holdovers. It's on Peacock, I think.
Yeah, so go get Peacock or get your free trial.
Go
if
get
you
your
don't
free
have
trial
it,
of Peacock
and watch The Holdovers real quick.
And watch it. Watch it right now. Stop the podcast and watch The Holdovers.
And then come back, finish the podcast.
And then finish the podcast.
And then listen to all of the music recommendations as well, their entire discographies. And you might feel inspired enough to make a movie too.
Yeah, no, 100%. Sometimes paintings, more specifically with my last film, paintings were like a huge deal. A lot of like Norman Rockwell, massive inspiration for pretty much everything we did with Planned Parenthood. Like it was all Norman Rockwell paintings, the nuclear family, that a lot of art from like the 50s kind of was really inspirational for that project. But yeah, that's kind of all I've really been listening to lately.
That's really interesting. Yeah, that's really interesting. As for me, something that's been inspiring me recently, I mean, I feel like I don't know about actually working on any projects, but I have been listening to a lot of just jazz albums. They recently, I love all the music from Peanuts, and they recently put this random, they already had all the main holiday ones on Spotify because those are like super famous. Like everybody has the Christmas album. It's like one of the best-selling Christmas albums ever or whatever. Oh, yeah. But they're starting to put the more obscure ones on there. They have like an election special for Charlie Brown called You're Not Elected, Charlie Brown. And they put that on Spotify recently. It's like the 55th anniversary or something. But they always have great soundtracks. So I would recommend listen to the more obscure Peanuts specials, their soundtracks, because they're all really good. They all have great jazz in them.
Yeah.
So just to get started, to give some context and stuff, I guess let's go back a little bit. What really, do you have any like formative memories, any moments that you really realized that like, oh, you wanted to go into the arts, that you felt like you wanted to be a filmmaker, go into this field? Was there anything like that you feel like really stuck out to you in your past that made you feel that way?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think there was a lot of moments of kind of this full commitment to the arts. One of the most specific ones for me was my grandfather was like the pastor of our church. And so he had like this accident happen to him years before I was born. And the doctors were like, they're like, you're going to die. And he kind of had to like keep his faith during that time. And it was like a really difficult time for my family. And it was like a huge, kind of struggle for him, because he like recently became the pastor at that church during that time. And so it was like he was the pastor and he like left because he was like in the hospital. And it was like a huge kind of moment for him and for my family. And he ended up like recovering. They like took his toes, but he was able to learn how to walk again, which was really cool for just kind of like him to have this like uplifting moment. And so I've heard that story like a billion times from my family, and I was like, oh, I want to make a documentary about this. There's like, all these people that were like involved and like everything. And so my first project ever was this documentary I made about my grandfather, and like I interviewed people at like our church and my parents and aunts and stuff like that. And so I put this whole thing together. And they like screened it at my church, which was really cool. And everybody was like, "Oh, we really like this. This is so sweet for you to do that for your grandfather and everything." And it was kind of like a really big moment for me, because I was like, whoa, that was kind of really fun. But I knew I was always like weirdly into journalism a little bit. So that still didn't feel like film yet. And it wasn't honestly until I did I think it's the 54-hour film contest it was based out of Tennessee. And I found it online, and I looked at one of my friends in our like history class, and I was like, yo, dude, we have to do this. Like, we have to just do this. And we did, and I put out like a thing in my high school, and I was like, hey guys, like, does anybody want to do this? And like people came to the auditions, and we like picked people. We had to drive up to Nashville to get all the stuff in person, like all of our like paperwork and stuff like that. And then we like came back, shot the movie, and we were driving back because we had to go turn it in physically, like at the
Oh wow,
place.
that's like old school. That's
Yeah,
like they're not no
yeah.
digital submissions. Wow.
And I'm like, this is not like the night. I was like 17. This was like 2017.
That's really interesting.
So we had it on like a hard drive, and we were going to take it back to them, and we didn't make it in time because we were driving back to Nashville from Muscle Shoals, and so it was definitely a really hard moment for me. And I remember like being in the car with my dad, and I was kind of just crying because it was like, I worked really hard for this. And my dad was like, I'm really proud of you though, because of how you got everybody together to do it. Like, you got everybody, like people your age, to listen to you to make a project. And then honestly, not to plug UNA like that, but George Lindsay was a massive moment for me, because it was my third like film project. Like, I did the documentary, that one, and then right after that I did a film called 1954, and it was like about what if like segregation came back, and like how that would like affect everybody in this town, and like it was like a super dramatic thing. And
it was like a narrative, like it was
yeah
okay,
it was like it was the longest short I had done at that time. I think it was like 14 minutes.
Okay.
So I made a jump from like 5 to like 14. So that
is a pretty big. I mean, I think especially for some like non-film people listening, they might think like, oh, that's not that much, but like that, I think it makes a world of difference for sure.
It was a lot. I wrote the script in like a couple days, and then we just like shot it. And I was like, I want to shoot this right now. So that was a big moment for me, getting selected to screen at the George Lindsay Film Fest, because it was the first time like I'd been selected for anything like film wise. And so it was super awesome to go watch my film. I'm trying to remember where it played at. I think it might have been in the Communication Building. I think.
Yeah, I know they definitely have screened some films there. That would make sense.
I'm almost positive. And then this older lady came up to me after my film screened. People were coming up. They were like, "Oh, this is better than like some college films. Like, wow, this is like impressive for a high schooler." And I hated that, because it was like, I don't want this to be impressive for a high schooler. I want this to be impressive. And this older lady came up to me, and she was like, I've been in the industry for like 30 years. And then she was like, this film is melodramatic. She was like, you had so much happen in so little time. It feels melodramatic. And we all went out to eat afterwards. Like, all the cast and crew, everybody came to like watch the film and everything. Everybody was super happy. And I remember just sitting there just being like, man, I think she was right. Like, I think this was just really melodramatic. And that was the first time that I like thought about this as a way of like improving. I think before then it had kind of really all been praise, because you're
young. Oh, it's like, you
young.
Made something. The fact that you even made something at all is like, oh, that's so cool, you know?
Yeah, and like not a lot of people I knew were doing it. And I mean, there was definitely like my main family like supported me, like my mom and my dad and stuff. But like, there was like my grandparents on my dad's side, or like other people, like other adults in my life would just be like, so how are you gonna make a career out of this?
Right. And the fallback career question, all that stuff. Yeah.
So it's definitely George Lindsay like kind of gave me a little bit of proof that I could get in somewhere. And so that was like a very kind of fundamental moment for me, because it was, I mean, I was 17, like going into my senior year of, high school and everything. And I was like, man, what am I going to do for college? Where am I going to go? And that was kind of when I was like, you know what, I'm going to just go for film. Like, I'm just going to go for film. I'm just going to go for it. And I think it's the right decision to make. I mean, it was definitely a little scary. And like, I mean, there was conversations with friends, with other people who just kind of didn't understand it because it was this like non-traditional thing. Now though, I feel like, I mean, it wasn't that long ago, but I feel like even with like a couple of years of change, it has become a little bit more accepted in a weird way.
Yeah, yeah.
But I mean, I could just be saying that, but
Maybe it's just being surrounded by film people.
Yeah,
But you know, I
maybe.
know what you mean. I think you may be right about that. Yeah, I could see that changing. It's just, I mean, I think you can just see it even a little bit with just the way our department has been growing recently. Like, I think more people are like, yeah, I could make a career out of this, you know?
Yeah, no, I toured UNA, and I remember like coming in here, seeing everything, and like I think for me at the time, like it had nothing to do with UNA. I just was like, I gotta get out of my area, and I want to like go explore and like be somewhere else. And I think film was the only thing that I was like, I think I'm really, really good at this. I also like got an award in high school because I essentially like, so I noticed this is like a little bit of a longer story, but I noticed
That's what podcasts are all about.
I know, right? We didn't have like a news program like at my high school. And I was like, man, I really think we should have a news program. I really think we should. Like, high schools nearby had them. And so I went to my principal and I was just like, hey, can I like start a news program here? And he was like, yeah, I think that's a really solid idea. And I was like, okay, cool. But they were like, how are you going to do that for class? And I was like, And so we kind of came up with this thing where like I would be doing a work study program, but my work would be working on the news program. And so I had this one teacher who sponsored it, and I was like working really hard. I like picked people for the host and everything, or for the anchors. And so I was like working on this stuff, and she didn't have much stuff for me in her classroom, but like there was this old like Dell, and I was like, I'm just going to turn this into a teleprompter. And then like we got a green screen and we had everything set up, and we kind of shot like, we had to shoot kind of like a proof of concept in like the cafeteria, I think it was, or just some other room on the school's campus. And we like filmed it. It was like really weird and like low budget. Like we didn't have a green screen or anything yet. It was just kind of like them at a table talking. And we showed it to the principal. He was like, I like it, but like, what else can you do? And so we did the green screen thing. And that's when they were like, okay, yeah, this could work. And it was crazy. It was definitely a like very rocky start to get it off the ground. People weren't very nice at first. Like one of our anchors got bullied kind of hard for it. And like, I mean, I would try to stand up for her and like stand up for like both of them. Cause like, people, we're in high school. People like, we're trying to do something to air like every morning before like class to tell you about different things. And so there was definitely like, teachers had different feelings about it towards me. Like I had some kind of negativity coming from a couple of teachers where they were just like, we don't like what you're trying to do with this. And they wanted me to talk about certain things. They wanted me to talk about football all the time. And I was like, I don't care about football. I mean, I do like football, but like
That's not the whole show. That's not what's going on. Yeah.
And then also I was like, football gets so much press.
Right.
So I was like, I want to cover band. I want to cover the musicals. I want to cover, what these kids are doing in like art. I want to cover like all this other random stuff. I wanted to cover what was happening like for lunch that day. I was like, imagine starting like your day off with this like news program, and you also figure out what you're having for lunch before you go to lunch. I was like, that would be perfect.
You have something to look forward to, maybe.
Yeah. And so there was like disagreements between that and everything, and then eventually it became a class, which was really cool. So I kind of technically started a class.
That's so satisfying. That really, that's awesome.
Yeah, and so that was kind of also another moment that happened at the exact same time, like where I was getting into Lindsay, and then also, that was kind of becoming a thing my senior year, and I got like this little like scholarship thing for college from my high school that was like for like being an artist or something like that. And so I think that was when I was like, okay, yeah, this is it. I'm doing film full time. Like that's it. That's all I'm gonna throw everything into.
That's such a cool story. I think I some of that I even can relate to pretty specifically because I was also on like a news thing at my school,
Mm.
and like I was one of the only people to like do it like all 4 years. Like when it started, it was so like it wasn't exactly bullying, but like I could tell people like hated my segment. You know, it's like mine was more like the
Yeah.
comedy segment, and like some teachers hate it, and then like even the students didn't think it was funny. You know, it's like it was not. You know,
Yeah.
but like sticking with something for 4 years and just being like, yes, this is my segment. I'm gonna like do this. This is like something I'm so committed to. Like by the end of it was like, uh, you know, it was kind of like popular. You know, it's like people like liked
Yeah.
it. You know, it's like I think people liked having something familiar. People like that. There's some kind of levity at the beginning of their day, and like it's just, I don't know. I think that kind of thing really. If people are willing to like hear you out, like
Yeah.
that recognition really can affect you. I think it affected me a lot creatively to have like just to stick with something and actually like see some results after like 4 years. I was like, yeah, this is actually kind of good now. It's like I felt kind of proud of it at the end of it.
For sure, man. I mean, like, you gotta. I mean, that I feel like that's just the most important thing, like for the industry, for everything, for whatever you do. Like, if you really believe in yourself and you believe in it, just keep going. Like, regardless of if people don't like it or if people think it's cringe or whatever, like, just keep going. You'll figure it out. Like, and they'll figure it out, and then. Eventually everybody will be like, wow, we really like this. How did you even do that? And it's
Right.
like, I did
So I
that
didn't
because
give up.
I didn't give up, and you guys called me cringe. Like,
Right. I mean, part of that's definitely just like high school in general, but then also some
Yeah.
of it's just like life. You know, it's
Yeah.
like people are excited to say like, "Oh, that's cringe," like, "Oh, that's lame." You know, it's like I think, especially if you're trying to like be funny, like a lot of people will shut that down immediately.
Yeah.
They're like, "Oh, you're trying to be like kind of wacky, like that's weird, that's lame." Like, but then I don't know if they give you enough of a chance to like to actually develop your comedy, maybe they'll like it. I think that it happens naturally a lot of times without people even realizing it.
For sure. I mean, there's just definitely like there's so many things that like I've worked on like personally where I've like, oh, I don't feel great about this, but I just kind of kept pushing and like it ended up Plant was kind of that way. I was like, I don't really like people thought it was kind of funny, but like it didn't really like, hit until I kept working at it. But I mean, I find myself slipping into that sometimes where I end up looking at something and I'm like, oh, that's cringe or whatever. Oh, like that's so stupid. But like I have to try to shake myself out of that because I'm like, that's so bad. Like I shouldn't be, kind of tearing that down because like sometimes I'll see stuff and I can really just feel that it is just jealousy. And especially like in this industry for sure, like it's hard. It's hard not to get jealous. It's hard when you see somebody else on like a bigger set than you or in a higher role and you're just a PA. Like it's really hard to just be like, yeah, like they're doing their thing. I'm doing my thing. We're on different paths. Like it's fine. But sometimes I feel like your brain just is like, that's like why am I not there? Not even like you're taking it out on them. Not you're like, oh, they shouldn't even be there. But it's more of just like, why am I not there?
Yeah, it's more like talking down on yourself.
On yourself,
more. Yeah.
I feel that like a ton, especially like being out of college and then going into the industry. And some friends got like, deeper in before I did. And so like, I think that definitely like bothered me sometimes because I was like, oh, I'm so happy for you. Like that's genuine. Like I really am happy for you. But at the same time, like when is my time coming? Like when am I going to get this opportunity to, kind of like feel like I succeeded? And to break that, like it really just kind of, I mean, I'm still working on it like all the time, but like one of the things that I try to remind myself is I'm like, look how far I came though. Like look at where I'm at now. Like when I was 17, I submitted to George Lindsay, and now because I submitted to George Lindsay again, I'm making a film with UNA. Like that's really cool to me, and like that might not be cool to other people or whatever, but like at the same time, that's progress for me, and I can like
Absolutely.
look at that and be like, okay, this is growth. This is I was able to do this during this amount of time or whatever, and I think that if you start to look at yourself and be like, okay, that is a success. I did this. This is a success for me. It doesn't really matter what this other person is doing. Like, that's a success for me. I'm looking at it as a success, and I'm not looking at this as something that's like, oh, I wish I was there. Because you'll always wish you were there. Like, I'm never going to stop wishing that I was at a different place than I am right now. But I also had to start to learn to appreciate where I am right now and appreciate that success. Because that's how you'll go further, like in a healthy way of just being like, this is growth. I did this, and I worked really hard, and I had people around me who worked really hard and, helped me in this process. And then I was able to achieve something, and now I got to go achieve something else, And so I think thinking about it in terms of like, that is a personal success for you, instead of being like, oh, comparing this success. And I mean, social media has a ton to do with that. Not to go on this whole like social media rant thing, but like it does, I mean, it has a lot to do with just seeing other people in other spots. But it's like, it's all fake, I mean, like there's so many things that I think about all the time where I'm like, I could post this and flex and be like, oh, I did this or did that or whatever. And I was like, but what am I doing that for? I'm not doing that for me. So why would I do it?
I think that's a good point. I think you make some good points, There's a lot to digest there that I think that like a lot of creatives will probably relate to. Like that is something that like is just so inherent when it's like you feel like you're making some progress and you're always comparing yourself. Like, yeah, I just agreeing with you. I think that's very true. So you already mentioned Plant a little bit. Can you tell us just a little bit like about the process of that? That was your senior film at SCAD. Can you just tell us a little about the process for that? I mean, I know it's a movie with a lot of crazy production design, a lot of things going on at the same time. I mean, just like production wise, but also like creatively too. Can you just tell the audience who isn't aware just like a little bit about that?
Yeah, that process was absolutely insane. At that point in time, I mean, still, I guess, like right now, monetarily wise, like that was the biggest project that I've ever done. That had a lot of moving parts. It had a lot of stuff that was being crafted for it, which was really cool, but also just like, I mean, really complicated. I mean, you have to have people design what the puppet looks like. There's a puppet in the movie. I guess I should start off with like what the movie's about. So it's about Ronald and Margaret. They're this couple, and they had been trying for a little while to have a kid, and they weren't able to have a kid. And Margaret is more focused on her job and her career life, and kind of leaves this idea of like this nuclear family, like, life away, and go focus on career. Whereas like Ronald is really wanting to be a dad and really wants to have a family and have all these things. And so he ends up, I won't spoil it for if you go watch it, but he ends up with a puppet kid, essentially, that's a plant. And so he kind of is like, oh, I really want to like, take care of this plant and make this our kid. And you guessed it, they don't really get along with that idea. So
conflict ensues, and so does hilarity and drama and anything else you can imagine.
Lots of it. And so it was just crazy. It was a really fun time. I worked with a lot of really cool people. I'm going to name drop some people just because they're really cool, and you should go like look them up and check them out. Really just one person. Shout out BJ Geyer. He'll never watch this podcast because like I don't even know if I haven't talked to him in a little while. But
if he does, he should like send you a message with a code word or something. Talk, you know, yeah.
Yeah, no, he was, he built the puppet and puppeteered it and did the voice for it and everything. And he just was like a really all-around great guy, professional guy. I'd worked with like the Henson Company a lot, and had a lot of really cool credits. He also worked on Forgetting Sarah Marshall. If you haven't seen Forgetting Sarah Marshall, go watch Forgetting Sarah Marshall.
Awesome movie, yeah.
Love that movie so much. Jason Segel, I want to be you. I want to make a Muppet movie. I'm saying
I feel the same. Yeah,
I'm manifesting this year. I have a script. I have an idea.
I'm so on board. If there's like, if you ever need someone to like have one line in the background, like even if it's a voice line that just says like "Hey" or something like that, put me in that. I manifest my Muppet movie, even if it's one line, because I think I got my Muppet hat on right now. So
yeah, no, I definitely.
We have two big Muppet fans right here.
Huge Muppet fan.
If anyone needs to like play this in like an edit in like 10 years or something, when it's like, see, they made it.
Yeah,
they
made the Muppet
here's
movie.
The clip. This is the clip for you.
This is the clip.
This is the clip to use.
Making the Muppet movie. But yeah, so he had a lot of experience with them, and so that was really, really cool to get to work with him and get to have somebody that like I would have had to pay a lot of money for, really just like the project and believe in the project and want to work on it, and cut me a nice deal for it. So that was really fun. Just all around, like it was a really cool time getting to work with everybody. It was my first time working with like a production designer, having like actual roles on set filled, which was really cool to see. I was super nervous like the whole time that we were doing it. Working with the actors, I mean, like they were the most professional actors that I've ever worked with at that time too. So it was kind of just like a lot for me. And one of the things that like happened immediately after that I didn't expect was I got this weird feeling where I was like, I didn't do a good job. I'm not a director. Like, I can't do this. And that doubt just crept in, which is crazy because if I actually think about the project itself, I had a fantastic time. I really enjoyed directing. I really enjoyed being there and like making the choices and working with the actors and making everything come together. But like afterwards, I was just doubting myself the whole time. And I think it was just because like I'd really been working on that project for like 4 years. I came out with it my freshman year, and then when COVID hit, I wrote a pilot. I didn't like it, and then one of my friends was like, "Hey, you should like make that your senior film." And I was like, "Nah, that's too like wild and wacky." Like at that time I was like, "I'm going to be so serious. I'm a super serious filmmaker. Like I have to make like Oscar-worthy short films all the time, and that's the only thing that I'm really going to put out." And then I was like, "What am I talking about?"
Like, that's not me.
That's not me at all. I was like, that's insane. So I was like, you know what? Yeah, I'm going to do it. And I did. And I was super proud of like my team and everybody, all the entire cast, the entire crew. Everybody really, put their all into it and really gave just like, I mean, the cast, like they just did a fantastic job. I think working with them was probably the most fun that I had on that job, just because it was like, I was able to really connect with the actress that was playing Margaret. And just like, I feel like in the beginning I was a little nervous, like just interacting with her because like she had worked on some bigger stuff before. And I was like, oh my God, like I'm just kind of this like student filmmaker guy. I don't want to like mess this up, whatever. And eventually like it got to a point where like, I remember there was times on set where I would come in like, cause I would like be next to the camera and then I'd just walk back and look at the monitor for a second. And then that take would happen, and then I would come back in. And as soon as I walked in, she goes, "You don't like it." And I was like, "Well," she was like, "You don't like it." And I was like, "I don't like it." And so like it was really cool to kind of like establish a relationship with her in that way. And with the guy that was playing Ronald, the casting process, that was so fun because I'm also an actor, and like I have to shout that out all the time. But
let it be known. Let's put it out there.
Let it be known.
Great actor. I think I mentioned at the beginning too. So for the record,
I'm also an actor. So cast me.
That could be our manifesting noise, the official noise of manifesting. So that's one of them. And then Muppet movie.
Disney.
Hit him up
right now.
I think he's ready for it. Yeah.
I'm ready. But yeah, no, it was really cool working with him and like seeing the casting process. Because one of the things, like any actors out there watching or listening to this, like he made such a different choice. Sometimes like you read the text, you see what's there, and you're like, okay, yeah, there's this way to play it. You got to look at that and go, okay, wait, no, there's a completely different way to play this. Like the way it's read right now, it's like angry. What if I didn't play it angry? What if I played it like I'm upset, but I'm like kind of gently upset and not angry? And that's kind of exactly what he did. Like he had this energy, because a lot of people when we did auditions were like, because when he sees the plant for the first time and he sees like him, he doesn't immediately like go, "Oh, my son," whatever. He like is very upset and like freaked out and doesn't really like it. And he's like weird. It's almost like seeing like an unknown like animal or something in your home, or like an alien or something like that. And so they were very, very angry and aggravated, and like they had this kind of a like aggression that was with it. And what I loved about his performance is he was confused, but he wasn't angry. He just kind of was like, "Whoa, I don't know what this is." And then that made it really easy for the transition from him to go from I'm confused to like, wait a minute, I really care for this thing and I want to, help it out and give it that, kind of nurturing like process that like it would take to be like a dad. And so it was really, really fun to have that, because I was like, I don't want the dad that's like, "Oh, I hate you, I hate this," or whatever. Mm-hmm. I was like, that doesn't fit the movie. It didn't fit the vibe, and it wouldn't make sense, because then both of them would hate him. And I was like, he has to be confused but willing to like experience this. Whereas she was like the complete opposite. We had to make sure she didn't really want that at all. And I mean, she's a fantastic actress, and he's also a fantastic actor as well. But like, she definitely had this really nice, just kind of layering going on, where it's just like, you could tell from the first moment of that movie that their marriage is on the rocks and that things aren't great. And that's that's not something easy to play, to where you have to kind of have this love for someone, but like, it's not working. And so that it just takes a lot of skill as an actor to do that. And I think that they both really did a fantastic job, and I hope that they're well. But yeah, that whole process was just kind of crazy. It was just like a lot of moving around, a lot of fun, but like, man, a lot of crazy. Like it was just, we were busy constantly with it because there were so many moving parts. I think we spent over $300 on plants alone, to fill up like the office part in his room. So like that was a lot of trips to like Lowe's.
I think that's one of those, this is kind of a tangent, but it's also, I think that's a good example of how like making a film is always more expensive than you think it's going to be. Like all those little things definitely add up.
Oh my God. And we had to make sure those plants were treated like babies because we had to return them. And so we lost a little bit of money on plants because, they're plants. So sometimes they would like either get damaged because people would carry them wrong or something. And so it was crazy. But yeah, we literally had to take all the plants back to Lowe's and return them. And we looked like psychopaths because nobody returns plants. I don't know if you know this or not, but nobody walks back into a Lowe's with
carrying a bunch of plants.
with a like little push cart full of plants and is like, give me my money back.
I don't need any of these anymore. They serve their purpose.
They serve their purpose for like the few days they were on set. Yeah. And so you do get questions sometimes when you're buying like bulk of a random item like plants or something like that, because people are like, what are you doing?
And then when you come back, they're like, "Oh, that's this guy again."
Yeah, it's this
not
guy
not happy with him.
returning plants. So sorry to those Lowe's workers that had to scan all of our plants. But it was really fun. We had a lot of really creative people on that job. One of my friends, Jacob, he was the DP on that. He's also coming to work on this project that I'm doing here. So it was really fun getting to work with him. I'd been working with him for like since my freshman year, and a lot of the people on there I'd been working with since freshman year. So it was like super emotional when we wrapped that project, because I was like, this all culminated in this experience. And like, when you're in college and you're in there with all these people that you kind of have like come of age in a different way, like come into adulthood really with, and you're, especially in a creative environment like that, where like we've grown as artists together. That was, it was huge. It was very, very helpful. And, I think I cried again then when we wrapped, because it was just so emotional thinking about how, we all were in Film 100 together, and like we'd been working on all this, and like, COVID had just happened. And so I was just feeling really grateful to be in that space. And my mom was on set on our last day too, because she was an extra in it. And so it was just like all these people that kind of were very important to this journey for me got to be in that room with me when we finished the job. And so that was really, really just kind of huge, just to see everybody and to get to stand up and be like, thank you guys so much for like working on this and talking about like just the process and shouting out everybody. I'm thrilled to do it on this one again too. I probably will cry. I'm a crier sometimes, I guess. I'm sounding like a crier on this podcast. But I think making these things, I'm not going to go as far as those people that are like, we're a family on the set. We're a family. But like,
you'll save that for the future.
But no, you do get really bonded with these people. You're spending
totally.
like 12 plus hours, with these people. And so I really do think it, it kind of brings you closer. It makes you, really grateful to the people you're around. I definitely am going to be sad after this, because I think, I've gotten to meet great people, and I think that it's so far, I can't even lie, it's been a fantastic experience being here. I know I'm getting a little ahead of myself, but Plant also was that. Like, it was a great experience. I don't know if you want me to talk about like the post side of things at all.
Sure, yeah. As much as you want to talk, as long as you got some time.
I got time. I got time like nobody's business. Disney, hire me for that Muppet movie.
Yeah, take his time up, Disney. I think this is a recurring theme.
Plant was really cool in post, because we had a sound company out of Chicago, a post sound house, reach out to us during our crowdfunding campaign, and they were like, we want to do post sound for this, and we'll like cut you a deal and everything. And I was like, whoa, that's incredible.
That's really interesting.
Very rare. I was very surprised. Super excited. I flew out to Chicago on my birthday and got to listen to the 5-1 mix in their studio. I felt so freaking cool. That was like one of the few times where I felt like important.
Yeah, like Mr. Director's entering the room and like, oh, and let me listen to this mix. Like that's very professional. That feels very like.
Let me go listen to this 5/1 mix in this like they had it in this like nice like theater and they had like the board in there and I was like watching. I was like, wow, it's my movie. And they were like, do you want a chocolate croissant? I was like, yeah, I do. I definitely want a chocolate croissant right now.
Even if you didn't want a chocolate croissant, like you're gonna take one. Like this is part of the experience.
Also, shout out Chicago. Love Chicago. Want to go back to Chicago. Maybe one day I'll live in Chicago. Not today, but maybe one day. But I do love Chicago so much. So it was super fun to be there and just like work on the post of this and watch the cuts and see everything. Here's a crazy story. I know I emphasized that way too hard. It's not that crazy. But I had money for this movie, and that money ran out really quick. Anybody that's ever made a film knows that your money goes away faster than you ever could imagine it goes away. And I was like, man, I really need somebody to do the music for this, blah, blah, blah. Maybe we'll just do copyright-free music. Sounds like garbage. And then I was like, crap. What am I going to do? And I am not a musician by any means. I took piano lessons when I was a kid, and I was in band for like years, but I played trombone, and I was like, this doesn't need trombone. So
your skill wasn't very applicable.
Was not. And so I was like, oh my God, what am I going to do? And it kind of came down to one of those things where I was like, we don't have money. And I've had Logic Pro for years now. It came with when I got Final Cut when I first started editing when I was like in high school. And on occasion I would hop in there and just like make stupid little beats and they were never like good. But I was like, I'm going to have to score my own movie. And that became really, really scary to me. And it was a lot of just locking myself in my dorm room and then making music like terribly on my laptop. And I was like really scared. Like it was a lot of just like doing this and then but there was one scene in, if you watch the movie, there's like a whole dancing sequence where they're both like dancing and they're both happy in their separate spaces before those worlds collide. And that, I was like, I can't do that. I'm going to need like, I kind of want a bigger sound for that. So I hit up one of my friends and I was like, hey man, shout out Kevin. You probably are going to watch this because you're in Atlanta and this is like in a whole nother state. But if for some reason you're watching this, Kevin, shout out Kevin.
Mm-hmm.
He
also should send a message. If he did, he's got to prove that he watched it, you know? Send a message if you listen, Kevin.
He played piano, and we did this kind of like scatting thing where we were like bum bum bop ba bum bum in the thing. It's like in the movie, and we did that at like midnight in the studio at SCAD. And so we're like playing this stuff. I'm like, we didn't have time to write anything, so I was like, Kevin, you're gonna kind of have to like, you know, freestyle this piano. And once we got to a point where we were like, okay, we like this, we did it, and we recorded it. Literally at midnight, went back to my dorm. I finished doing more stuff at like 1 or 2, went to bed, woke up, went to the airport, hopped on a flight to Chicago to have them play it for the first time. The first time that I heard it all together was when I got to Chicago for the 5/1 mix. I literally didn't have time to listen to it for the rest of the time. So I was so nervous because I'm sending this off to them at like 1, 2 in the morning. And then I was like, oh my God, if there's anything wrong, if there's anything, whatever. And I was so stressed because I was just like, you know, school, there's other stuff. SCAD is very specific about their attendance policy. So I had to skip a class and I was like on my last day of class. So like if I missed one more class, I would have failed automatically. So I was really just like so stressed. It was on my birthday. And then I was like flying out there, listened to it the first time. It sounded good. And everybody was like, this works. And I was like, oh my God, there's no reason why this should work at all.
But thank goodness it did on your birthday.
Yeah,
I mean, that's like...
I literally was only in Chicago for a few hours. I literally flew out there, listened, and then had to fly back for class the next day.
That is... I think that is a pretty crazy story. Yeah, I think you... Wow.
It was something, yeah.
You mentioned briefly a little bit earlier. I was just wondering if you could talk a little bit about your most recent experience at the George Lindsay UNA Film Festival, which, for those who don't know... happens here every year. It's amazing. It's you should submit if you're a film student. You have nothing to lose, so you might as well submit.
Yeah, submit.
Ask Mike for a free code so you don't have to pay to submit. Mike Johnson. Yeah, I think it's a wonderful festival. Could you tell us a little bit about your experience at it recently?
I absolutely loved it. I love the George Lindsay Film Fest. I'll probably always go to the George Lindsay Film Fest. Hold me to that, podcast listeners. If I'm making a film, it'll be a George Lindsay.
The audience loves it. They love your loyalty.
But yeah, so I'll definitely have to submit again. But I loved it. I loved going there. I loved meeting everybody. I met Grayson there, so that was super, super fun to meet him there. And yeah, I met a lot of really cool people. A lot of people asked me cool questions about my movie, which was really, really fun. And, you know, just the environment's really nice. It's cool. I'm from the area, so like it's always nice to be able to come back and have a reason to come back. And I mean, not like my family's on a reason to come back. Sorry, family.
You have another excuse to see them, though. Maybe they'll like
to see my
that.
family. Thank you for saving it, Grayson.
That's what he meant. That's what he meant.
Look like a total jerk. No, but yeah. See my family, see my film, see people, see my film, talk about it. Me. I don't know. But no, it is really, really fun and really well put on. A lot of cool filmmakers from all over come to, you know, see their films screened here. It's a lot of fun. I would love to win. Shout out George Lindsay. Let me win. Maybe that's on me. Maybe I gotta make a better film. But one day.
It's exciting. Yeah, you'll just keep on going. I think that's. I didn't even realize. I kind of just assumed you won last time. I kind of forgot that.
I didn't win. I'm not bitter.
Subject.
I'm not bitter. There's a lot of good film. There was a lot of good films.
No, yeah, totally.
In the category with me, and you know, I mean, it's not about winning. I know I just made that whole thing, but I was mainly just joking. Like it's not about winning. It's about like seeing your film screened in front of other people. That's what like actually gives me so much joy and makes me want to keep doing it, is because I love watching people watch my movie and then be like, oh, I really related to this, or oh, this like really got to me at a certain point, or I really like this, and like, or like I'm inspired by whatever, and like that really kind of drives me to keep doing it, because you know, I feel like sometimes you write stuff and you're like, does this story need to be told, kind of thing, like, you know, do I have anything to actually say? And like, it was cool to submit it to George Lindsay and then have people watch it. People come up and talk to me and be like I think like even you and like Matt and like just people come up to me and just be like, yo, like this inspired me. Like I'm a filmmaker, I'm an actor, whatever.
And I love puppets. You know, I think a lot of people really love the puppets.
Yeah. And so like it was really, really fun to get those experiences, talk to other filmmakers. I made a lot of filmmaker friends there. Like it was really cool to watch their films and have them come support me and me support them. So like it was really nice. You get to watch a lot of really talented filmmakers put on their stuff. No matter if you're, you know, local or wherever you are, go to a film fest. Like they're usually not that expensive unless you're going to like a massive one, but like go to a film fest, go watch some movies that you would literally
screenings at George Lindsay are open to the public.
Yeah,
so
that you would literally
just go ahead and walk in.
That you would never see, you know, like before, outside of that, you know. And so it's really cool. And who knows, maybe you'll discover an artist that one day is making feature films in theaters and you're like, holy crap, I saw their film years ago at this festival or whatever. I think it's important, you know, support film festivals, and especially the George Lindsay one. Not to like plug it so hard, but like
I might as well. I mean, it's SOTA Pop podcast. Go ahead,
podcast. So
the best film festival ever.
It is great. It's great. I mean, I've been to a couple other ones. I haven't been to that many film fests, but like it's great. I really, really love it. You know, and I mean, this one can't compete because like we're making
like UNA official, like it's a UNA film.
So it'd be pretty dirty if we were like, we made a film, and then they were like, it wins. But I think we're gonna screen it there whenever it's done.
I bet we will. Yeah.
So come watch the film that we're like probably gonna talk about soon. I
think that's a great transition. That's a great transition. I was about to ask, can you just talk a little bit about Almost Heaven, the film we're filming here at UNA? And just like some of the opportunities associated with it and just what makes it so special. I think people are dying to know.
Okay, cool.
Especially if they've gotten this far. I think they're dying to know about Almost Heaven.
They're dying to know. Almost Heaven is a film that I'm directing here in kind of partnership with UNA, and it's about Magic and Riley, and they're two girls in their like senior year of college, and they're doing this very important showcase kind of put on by their professor, and it kind of details their entire experience doing these rehearsals leading up to the showcase. And Magic and Riley's kind of big dilemma, which is that they really like each other. They're like kind of in love with each other, and they also really are having this kind of internal issue of like, what do I do next? Especially Magic. She's kind of in this space where she's like, I want to be on Broadway. I want to go to New York. I want to leave my small town. And Riley, isn't like that. Like she kind of is like, I'm happy and I want to be happy with you here, but you want to leave. And so this kind of dilemma causes some rifts in the showcase like performance stuff, and so Magic ends up having to make this really hard decision to kick Riley out of the showcase and replace her. So it's kind of this like big dramatic thing with like these theater majors, and so it's like it's theater majors, it's going to be dramatic, it's going to be fun, and it just kind of like when I was writing this script, it was really important to me to tell like a story that kind of really related to me in a personal way. Like Plant, of course, related to me in a personal way, because like my parents are divorced.
For any audio listeners, I just want to make it clear, he pushed the button. That was not me.
So that was kind of like a big deal with me because I was just like thinking about what it's like kind of on that side of things with like a relationship. And funnily enough, Almost Heaven was kind of born out of a similar situation on my end with like a breakup and my life going in a different direction. I'm, planning to move to LA very soon. And so I kind of felt like I was at this kind of point in my life where I was like, man, I'm making a really difficult choice. I don't really know what to do. And I was losing somebody that I, really loved and cared about. And so it was a difficult thing to write, but it helped me a lot by writing this and kind of letting the creativity flow by, putting it down on the page and creating these characters that are, I feel very real and very, true people, and a experience that a lot of us can relate to, even if you weren't like a theater major, of this just kind of like your life is changing. Your life is going into a new direction, and a lot of coming of age films are about high schoolers and leaving high school, and that's a huge moment. It really is. But I feel like leaving college is also a massive moment, because you're leaving that education system, and you're leaving this kind of like security of where you are, even if you don't live in that area. Like if you're in college and you're outgoing and you're out and about, like you're gonna kind of feel a relationship to the area that you're in, and you might not want to stay there, or you might want to stay there. Those are choices, because it's like, well, if I stay here, like, and I'm further away from home, like, it's going to be harder. I'm not going to have breaks, I'm going to have a job. Like, you can't just go home, like, whenever you want, So I think it definitely is a big decision, once you get out of college, to figure out what you're going to do. And that's kind of like the issue that Magic faces more specifically. And I think that this film, for me, is also just doing a lot of special things for like, just like myself and my identity and everything, with like wanting to tell a story that just felt really real and that a lot of people could relate to. I mean, I hope a lot of people can relate to it, and make something with like a lot of students and make something that like everybody can be proud of and everybody can benefit from. So I think to me, this was like a very opportune thing to happen for me, especially because I was in Atlanta and now I'm back in Alabama for a little while. And so it was kind of nice to be back here and have something to make and work with people and have this kind of creative flow happening, especially during this transitional period for myself.
Yeah, I think that's those are all things. Like you said, I think a lot of people can relate to all those feelings, and especially people who are a little closer to graduating, like this end of a routine. It's like that can be like life-changing for somebody. So if you're near that time in your life, or maybe you're just a freshman or something, I think this is a fantastic opportunity to get involved with the production of this film.
Yes.
I think an email went out talking about crew positions. There may also be, maybe on the UNA Cinematic Arts and Theater Instagram, there may be some information there. But if you can't figure any of that out, I would just talk to Michael Curtis Johnson, as soon as possible.
Shout out Michael Curtis Johnson.
Shout out Mike. Talk to him. I think he can help you get on this film in some way. I mean, even if it's just a small role, I think this will be a very just a great opportunity for students to be on. So be on it. Don't miss it. Don't let it pass you by. This is filming soon in October. So like, let's get the ball rolling. Like be involved.
Grayson's on it.
Grayson's on it. Granville's on it.
Tell him a little bit. Tell him what you're doing. Tell him.
Am I allowed to announce? I guess.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be acting in it. I'm acting in it. I'm gonna be making my grand return to acting. I know it's been a little while. So if you want to see me act, if you want to see some other fantastic UNA people act, there's some good ones. There's some really good, maybe some familiar faces for some of you, and maybe some of the freshmen or something. Maybe you don't know all these people, but like I think it. Okay, not to hype it up too much, but some of these people are so good that like I think it's gonna be influential for some people, especially like some young acting students. If you just want to be on it in some way, I think there are opportunities for that to like for you to just like crew in a way that's like not too difficult, like maybe a PA or something, and just see some great actors at work. I mean, there's some really good actors on this.
We got somebody big coming, somebody special, somebody.
Yeah, so it's worth
a name, if you will.
Yes, yeah, that's a great way of hyping it up. There's a name. There's a name involved, so you should definitely try to get on this. I think we did a good job of hyping this up. This sounds pretty exciting, doesn't it? So, so be on it. Don't miss it. Don't miss it is what I'll say. And if you do miss it, don't miss the screening at least. You got to watch this. You're going to want to watch it.
But you definitely should come be on it. Come meet me.
Yeah.
Come
meet Grant. Yeah. He's here. Go meet him,
Come meet everybody.
Come meet
it's gonna
everybody.
Be fun.
Yeah, it's gonna be
I
great.
think it'll be a good experience. I mean, I think I want to have a lot of fun on set.
Yeah.
I always like having a lot of fun on set. So I think, we'll do the work. We'll put the work in, but we're also gonna have some fun. So
as we wrap this up a bit, I was wondering if you had any kind of like guiding philosophies or any mantras that you kind of use like while you're in the creative process or while you're filming. Not that it has to be something like so ethereal or anything, but just like if there's anything that like I don't know that kind of guides you that while you're doing these kinds of things. I think you've already kind of touched on some of them, honestly, but like. Yeah, what do you think about that? Is there anything that kind of sticks out to you?
Man, I wish I had something that was like,
so wise. It's going to change everyone's lives. Yeah,
to like get in this. I don't. But I do keep moving forward. It's from the Meet the Robinsons movie.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone can cook. I love Ratatouille, and I think that means. I used to do video essays on YouTube during COVID, and I talked about like artistry stuff. And one time at the end of the video, I put like this thing about anybody can cook, and I'm about to make Ratatouille philosophical. So for all those listeners out there that don't want this, skip forward. Like
this is where you like start hitting the little 15-second button.
Yeah.
No, I mean I think it's a great movie. I think it does have philosophical elements to it. It's like there's something there for sure.
Yeah, because anyone can cook doesn't mean what it means like literally. It's just like anybody can do anything. You can put that effort in and see what comes out of it, kind of like what we were saying earlier, like even if it feels cringe at first, or even if people are making fun of you or saying whatever, like people told Lady Gaga she would never be famous. Look where Lady Gaga is now. That's the ADHD cooking up. I just went from Ratatouille to Lady Gaga.
Watch me bring it back though. Like Granville, you're never gonna make a Muppet movie. See, this is my like reverse manifestation thing. And then you can, if you're gonna do this edit where it's like people are telling you down, you're like, it's never gonna work, man. You're never gonna work with the Muppets. And then you can cut to it like right after this.
And then later I'm gonna be like,
cut to you with your arm around Kermit, Miss Piggy.
I'm working with the Muppets. I'd love to work with the Muppets. I really would. Not to derail it even more, but yeah, I don't really have a mantra. I don't really do any of that stuff. I just try to like. I try my hardest to be myself in all circumstances. It's difficult, and I mean sometimes like even within myself, like I'm just like, oh, I want to be like this or I want to do this, and I'm like, no, you can't. That's not you. And I'm like, it is me. It's just not what other people have seen of me, beforehand. And so I think that sometimes I get really scared to kind of be myself, but I'm getting better about that, and I'm getting better about just being like, you know what, like this is me, I'm me, and I'm just kind of do whatever I want to do and try to, make the best of it. But yeah, that being said, I don't have any mantras.
I think you summed it up well, though. I think you answered the question. That's wonderful.
That was terrible. This is this is what that was.
No, but I mean, I think that's true, and I think that you've already kind of the crickets. Yeah, they're well, okay. They like this part. They're listening up. They're like, let's hear them out. Just like you said, like I think that just like keep doing what you're doing and stuff. Like I think that you've already proven that like that has been part of your philosophy, especially with some of these things that seem so impossible or like unpopular at first, that like these unconventional ideas that people are like, I don't know if this is gonna work. Like, I think you've done good at just like pushing forward and just like doing them. It's like they wouldn't exist if you just like let people get you down and let people like discourage you from trying something different. So
yeah.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I agree with that.
You're like, yeah, you got some good points there.
I mean, I guess if I will add like one small little mantra thing,
okay.
If I will have one small little mantra thing, something that I need to be better at, like a lot better at, is just putting your stuff out there. Put your work out there. Don't be afraid to put anything that you create out there. Like if you wait for it to be perfect, it'll never be perfect. Sometimes you just kind of have to put it out there. And it's progress. You can always take it down and like, I mean, I know the internet exists forever or whatever, but like, as long as it's something that you're still proud of, that you tried really hard on, I don't think that will ever change, Like, I mean, I have a lot of short films that I think are hot garbage, terrible, like the worst thing you've ever seen. And I pulled them down off of YouTube because they're bad. But for a while I kept them up because I was like, this is progress. And I think it's important to look back as well as look forward. Like, I watch some of my old short films sometimes just to be like, oh, what was I doing here? What was I trying here? This doesn't look good. This doesn't blah, blah, blah. And just kind of always being a student of it. Always ask questions. Always be a student of whatever, industry, whatever you want to do, talk to people. And, like, my biggest thing, too, is, like, this isn't really like a mantra thing, but like anytime I'm on set, anytime I'm meeting people, I ask them like, how do they get there? Why do they do what they do? Like I want to reach a great height. I want to be great. And I think that, asking people and surrounding yourself with people that are more talented than you, surrounding yourself with people that work hard and that have good drive and everything like that, that's important. It's crucial. Your community is incredibly important. And that's something that is kind of not easily, but like a little more easily baked in when you're in college. And when you graduate, you have to build that for yourself. And it's hard when you don't have it. You kind of forget how important it is to have people around you that like care about you and support you and lift you up and work hard and challenge you. Like, you don't want people to just be like, oh yeah, that's good. No, tell me why it's good. Or, oh, that's bad. Tell me why it's bad. Like, I want to send my scripts to my friends and have them go, okay, you need to fix some things, or here's some things that I think about, or whatever, blah, blah, blah. Like, tell me what's up. Don't just say it's good, because if you just say it's good, I'll never get better.
And with those wise words, I think we can transition to the end of the podcast, and we have a segment called Fizzle Down Feel Good. In this segment, it's just kind of about one small good thing that happened to you this week. Like just, it can be something like, I mean, it can be something big, but if you only have something small, if it's just like, oh, someone held the door open for me, that can be it. So like, I'll go first. I'll just say, I mean, something good that happened to me this week was when we spontaneously started walking around UNA. I had a great time just like showing you around, like showing different locations. We found some very like, I don't know, just like weird locations around across campus that are like really cool and very like that would look cool on film, and that was really fun. I really enjoyed that. I think I was like sweating out of my clothes because it was so hot outside, but it was still a great experience. So what about you? It's something good that happened this week.
That's so funny. I was literally going to say the same thing.
Okay, well, you can say the same thing.
Yeah, no, I mean, I really enjoyed that. Like, I really had a good time walking around, looking at these locations and just looking at UNA and just being back here, Like, I think it's been really nice. I mean, as a whole, like, I mean, there's, like, being in the class with you guys and just seeing everybody and just being around people that are creative and being in this creative environment again. Like that is the good thing that's happened to me this week, is just, waking up and knowing, oh, I'm going to go do some cool creative stuff today. Like, and, it does come from within, but also it's like, oh, I can go, I could just go out and do it. And doing this has been really fun. I'm having a blast. I mean, I'm yapping. We're like an hour
It's
in.
so fun. Yeah. Love to yap.
But yeah, no, I mean, I love this. This is great. So I'm thankful for all this stuff for sure. It feeds the creative soul 100%.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Is there anything you want to shout out, plug before you leave? Anywhere people should follow you or anything like that?
The Granville Davis on Instagram.
There you go. As always, we are UNA Soda Pop on Instagram. We're, I think, UNA Soda on TikTok. We're University School of the Arts on YouTube. And I think you can just look up University School of the Arts on Spotify or Apple, find our podcast. We're all sorts of places. So, Granville, I want to thank you so much for being on.
Yeah.
What a fantastic guest, giving us some wisdom.
Go watch Planned Parenthood. It's on Vimeo.
Okay.
Just type Planned Parenthood in. It should pop up. If you go to the Granville Davis, my Instagram, you'll find it there. But it's also on YouTube. Just go watch it. It's good.
There's some mature content, content warning a little bit. It's a little more mature, but it's fantastic. I think if you've made it this far in the podcast, you're going to love this film. It's great. It's great. That's my glowing recommendation. So thank you again for being on, and just bye.
This stuff as the writer-director of the project.